Hello, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I watched a couple of Star Trek videos the other day and read a couple of articles, and basically Paramount Plus has arrived, CBS All Access is history, and they basically had a Paramount earnings call, kind of like the Disney earnings call, where they talk about what they've got coming up on the platform. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the films. Now, most of this is speculation, unfortunately, but one thing that we do know, I did a video a couple of days ago about a Star Trek Discovery actress. I keep saying actress because she was named after a character, and I keep thinking of her as the character. Sorry, one of the writers from Star Trek Discovery being contracted to write the new Star Trek film for Bad Robot. Now, I, being the trusting, optimistic person that I am, read these articles and believed these people were accurate in their reporting, and they're kind of not. So basically what keeps happening with Star Trek, the Star Trek films, Bad Robot was contracted to make Star Trek films for Paramount. Now the contracts have all ended, and Paramount and CBS have merged together. Basically, they don't have to work with Bad Robot on the films anymore. They can work with them if they want to, or they can, like if they propose a film, they can take it on, and then they'd have to sign up a new contract, which would obviously be for a long period and multiple films. They wouldn't do it for just one film, and that's what they want. They want to get back in a contract with Paramount to make Star Trek films, because they profited from making the films. Whether the films were successful or popular or made any money didn't matter. They made the money from producing them. So they want to get back that golden goose. But Paramount and CBS is kind of, I think they're like, well, we can do this by ourselves. We don't need you now. We don't need you to liaison between Paramount and CBS anymore. We can do this ourselves. So what keeps happening, they've been doing this since Beyond. Basically, they develop a film idea and they just put it out in the press as though it's happening. They did it with Star Trek 4 when Beyond was being released. They announced as like a confidence thing. They said basically they were making Star Trek 4 with Daddy Kirk and Baby Kirk, and Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth were going to star in it, but then they wouldn't pay them what they agreed to pay them, so they both walked, so they lost the funding because no one wanted to fund the film without the actors. That was the only reason why they were doing it, because it had Thor in it, basically. So then the next film, they were going to do a soft reboot and get rid of all the cast and save money, and it was going to be directed by someone who I think either worked on or then went to work on Game of Thrones, female director. They made a big deal about that. That fell through. Then there was the Quentin Tarantino Abomination, which didn't happen, thank God. It was apparently supposed to be a gangster film based on the episode A Piece of the Action in Star Trek, which obviously Star Trek is not a gangster period piece. That was funny for one episode, but that's not what Star Trek is, so glad that didn't happen. The next film was supposed to be with Noah Hawley, and the issue apparently there was that he wanted to do an original story and step away from everything that had been done, and it was sort of like a soft reboot again, and they wanted to stay in the established universe. They've paid, they've got it established, they've got the sets, they've got the look, they've got the designs, people have an awareness of it, they want to stay in that realm. So that's ultimately why they passed, is what I hear. And this new film, basically what Bad Robot keeps doing is they keep developing these film projects and hoping to get Paramount interested in them, and they announce them like they're actually going to happen, but unless they're being greenlit and financed by CBS and Paramount, they're not going to happen. They just build it and they will come hopes, dreams. So this film is not happening, no more than any of the other films. And the other talk is that now, because of the state of the film industry, these films will be made on the cheap through Bad Robot and Secret Hideout, through basically the TV of the Star Trek that's already in production, that they basically use Discovery sets and base it in that sort of era to save money, and that they would go straight to streaming. Or in any case, any films they do make, even if Paramount makes them on their own, they would be going to streaming now anyway, because there really isn't a film industry at the moment, and no one's sort of planning any big blockbusters until the pandemic is over and they see if the crowds have come back to the cinema. So I'm a bit disappointed in myself that I just sort of ate all that and just assumed that was going to happen when it's probably not. Now, it's sort of similar with the TV shows where they have, they're contracted to finish out all the TV shows, basically, that are in production now. And after that, they can end their association with Secret Hideout and make shows for themselves. And it's not just the shows that are in production, but the shows that have started pre-production. I think they have to finish. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes and what Paramount, CBS do, and if they totally walk away from Bad Robot and Secret Hideout. Now, the main thing that they were talking about, there's a few TV issues that I'll go into later, but the main thing that they went into, that I saw Robert Meyer Burnett cover this, which was interesting. Now, I haven't watched any of his videos since like June, since the Black Lives Matter protests, where he basically said, shoot all the protesters. So I haven't really gotten past him. I sort of cancelled him, but I did watch this one little video. He normally does really long ones. And they're usually really good, and I really used to enjoy them, but I just can't stomach him for the moment. So, but I did watch this one because 18 minutes, I thought I can handle that. And basically, Prodigy, there's multiple issues here. The first issue is they announced this as the first animated, like, kids Star Trek show, kids animated show for Star Trek. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is Kurtzman saying this. Where was he in 1973 and 74 when Star Trek the Animated Series was on TV and winning Emmys? It was a great show. It was made for kids. Adults could also enjoy it because it was intelligent. It wasn't dumbed down for kids. Now, this new show, they're directly aiming it at kids, and they have this idea, and Kurtzman said this is a quote that he found somewhere. He basically said that children, all the Star Trek shows have basically fully formed adults, like career adults working in Starfleet, and children don't aspire to that. So we need to create a show that kids will aspire to. So we want them to star a bunch of people who don't know what they're going to do with their lives, people who are lost, and that will somehow be aspirational to kids. And we're going to make them all aliens because it makes no sense. And he went through this and he did a better job of explaining it than I probably will. Basically, Star Trek was about humanity and humanity's future that was positive. We look forward to, we wanted to be a part of, we wanted to be those characters, we aspired to be those characters and live in that world. This series doesn't even have humans. There's no human connection. There's like, how are kids supposed to aspire to be an alien or someone totally inhuman? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. It's sort of insulting to kids. I think the way that they are approaching this, that you've got to write down to them and make something specific for them because they're not intelligent enough to see themselves growing and being adults and aspiring to what they're seeing on the show. They think they have to be kids for the kids to relate to them. This is something that has happened a lot in TV shows. They tried to put children on the animated series, the original Star Trek animated series, but fortunately they were smart enough not to do that. So that was insulting to just not acknowledge the animated series, because this is not the first animated series for kids. And Lower Decks, it's basically the third, because that may have been meant for younger adults, but it wasn't a serious action show. It was like a comedy and a kids show. So to say that is just really insulting. And like I said, not having humans to aspire to and a future to aspire to in the show is just not Star Trek. And the other issue was he talked about how Star Trek has a theme of inclusion. No, Star Trek never had a theme of inclusion because inclusion was just not an issue. There was no exclusion, so inclusion was just a given. Star Trek was never about inclusion. It wasn't an issue. So making situations where people are excluded, like the Romulans in Picard or the androids in Picard that are being used as slaves and all these sort of things, and creating problems and then solving them is not Star Trek. Star Trek is, we've already solved the problems, we're in this optimistic future, now we just get to enjoy it and learn from it. So it's just not Star Trek. So there's huge issues there that Robert Meyer Burnett went into and did a very good job of. And the other thing he said, which is going to lead me into the other shows, is that, he said they're creating these shows originally said we're creating shows that are all different. When all the shows be different, so every person has a show. Every group, every type of fan is represented by a Star Trek show or has a Star Trek show. And the thinking behind that is we don't want fans to watch one show and think they've seen Star Trek and then leave, because that's what they've been doing. That's why Discovery and Picard don't get the sort of numbers and rewatches that the older Star Trek shows have, is because they are alienating the old fans who would watch the shows and rewatch the shows and buy a lot of merchandise and want to live in that universe because they aspire to create that universe for themselves and to live in it because they love it. Instead, we have this dark, nihilistic, negative, problematic future that we have to fix, and no one wants to be part of that. And they have a lot of these normies and non-fans and basic science fiction fans, general science fiction fans who are not hardcore science fiction fans or Star Trek fans, who come in and watch the show because of advertising, because they've been told it's what to watch, because it's inclusive and representative and diverse, and all the catchphrases and all the marketing and that. They get people in, they watch the show, they go, oh, I watch Star Trek, and they go off and they don't think about it again. They go watch the next Netflix show that people are talking about. And that's why they don't come back. And that is proven here in the way that he's looking at how to plan the future series, because they're aware that it's like a one and done. They watch the show, oh, they move on. They don't go buy calendars, they don't go buy CD soundtracks, they don't go buy books, they don't go buy, these are all the things that have kept Star Trek alive for years. They don't pay for digital copies, they don't buy, some of them buy Funko Pops maybe, they don't buy toys and models and things and give them to their kids. It's not the same crowd, it's not the same enthusiasm, it's not embraced the same way, and he's aware of that. So now we go into the other shows. Like I said, they're the only real hope for Star Trek at the moment really is Strange New Worlds, and that is because the rumour is, and this is a rumour, but yes, they're feeding it to me, I'm eating it, I'm hoping, I might be totally making a fool out of myself, but the rumour is that Kurtzman has been basically pushed out in favour of Akiva Goldsman by Emma Watts, and that basically Star Trek Strange New Worlds actually has a chance to be a real Star Trek show because Kurtzman isn't involved, and they can just focus on having a traditional show which has, episodic format and optimistic future and humanistic themes and dealing with politics and issues in a humanistic way that people think about it, opens their minds. And that's part of the thing with Star Trek. It made you think, and you would keep thinking about it, you keep coming back to it. Discovery, the newer shows, they're just, flashing lights, loud noise, lots of things to get your attention, and you don't really think about the show or what's happening or why it's happening. You don't think about the logic or the philosophy behind any of it, and then it just ends and you go on. The original Star Trek, it made you think, it made you want to explore. That's why people kept coming back to it and this is not in the new thing, but there is a hope. See how optimistic and stupid I am? There is a hope that this could be in Strange New Worlds, because Akiva Goldsman is a Star Trek fan and did love the original series. He may not be the best writer, but if he's just producing and hiring good writers, which he could do, we don't know who's working on the show yet, totally, I still have some hope. I'm not giving up. Now, the other thing, the other rumour, which seems plausible, is Star Trek Discovery Season 4 and 5 are being filmed back-to-back to save money, because basically Amazon and Netflix are not supporting it. CBS, Paramount doesn't want to pay for the whole thing. So for the first time, Secret Hideout has had to actually pay for some of the production. So that's why they're cutting down cheap, filming 2 series back-to-back, and then they'll just take their sweet time editing those episodes and getting the second season out, basically in the next year. And that kind of makes sense. Basically, they've managed to get some funding through some little things, like they created some technology for the Star Trek production that other productions are using to get around COVID issues, and they're making money out of that. And some of the other, it's kind of boring. They just have found some way to get some additional funding to pay for it themselves, because Netflix walked and Amazon wasn't that interested. So the series are definitely going on. It looks like it's going to get a 5th season. They're going to be filming till June. I think they started start of the year. It was announced in November. And yeah, I think that's where we're at. The only other issue with the Star Trek shows, I think I said, they are contracted to actually finish the shows that are running now, but CBS Paramount doesn't have to, start any new ones up. They don't have to work with Secret Hideout on any new shows. They can let all those shows end, let that contract end, and they can go on and do their own. Even if they produced basically the same show they would have with Bad Robot, they can do it without them. So the only interesting thing about that is supposedly they have to finish filming any shows that are in pre-production. So Section 31, which was technically put into pre-production by Bad Robot, by Secret Hideout, the same way Bad Robot would do it with the films, is by basically going into production by themselves with no authorization or funding or anything, just doing it actively on their own, so that then Bad Robot would then do that to announce it and try and get press. But Secret Hideout is doing it, so I think supposedly having it in production, they get to finish it. So the Khan film, miniseries or series that was in pre-production might happen, but unfortunately Section 31 also might happen. But supposedly Section 31 won't happen until the other shows finish. So it's all up in the air with all that. But that's sort of interesting. Most of it's rumour, conjecture, but it's still interesting to watch and see what happens. But I think I'm done. I think I've covered everything. Yeah, I just want Star Trek to be good again. I want Strange New Worlds to actually try to be a Star Trek show. Discovery and that can just sort of end, and we can just see them as alternative universe, alternative sort of shows, and just sort of put them in a separate place, and hopefully go on either with original canon Star Trek shows that CBS can produce with no issues, CBS Paramount can produce with no issues, or we continue to see Prime Universe shows, but actually trying to be Star Trek like Strange New Worlds, because then you can get both audiences. People like me will watch if they're good, and people already interested in Star Trek through Discovery and that will watch because it's in that same sort of universe and that style. So I do have some hope for Star Trek. So I'm not being totally negative. I'm trying to be fair about this and being optimistic, and just instead of just bitching about, what I think of this or that writer or producer or whatever, I'm trying to look at this and be hopeful and see what might come out of this. But we'll see. It will be interesting to watch to see how all this unfolds and where the contracts go and what they end up doing in the future. I think that's everything, yeah. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. I can't believe I talked for 17 minutes. I was trying to do this in 10. Wow. Sorry. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and maybe even ding the bell. It does help. I would like to grow my channel a bit. I appreciate the people that do watch, who tell me that I don't just follow the mob and I have my own thoughts. It's nice, but I'd like to have a few more people watch. That would help. Thanks. Bye.